Welcome to the 9th video in my series of Access to Work advice videos. Like all the other videos in the series, it's aimed at you directly if you're a person about to start a job and you want to use Access to Work, and you if you're a parent or a key supporter. In the last video, I mentioned a support plan for the first time. Your Access to Work allocated advisor will have talked to you about this in the phone conversation you had with them. As I said in the last video, one or two advisors might call it an action plan, but most call it a support plan. They will email it to you once you've had the initial conversation with them. Over the years, I've seen various versions of this document. They're all pretty similar. They usually have 30 questions. The 20 most straightforward ones are up on screen now. I'm not going to spend much time discussing these questions. What I've done for the purpose of this video is to move around the order of the questions a little compared to the original by putting them in two columns: eligibility and employment. I have found this question a little confusing in the past, to be honest, when supporting somebody into a job into a large supermarket that's also a PLC. Do I write the number of people the organisation employs locally or nationally? What I've always opted for is the local option, on advice from an Access to Work advisor as it happens. And the way I've got the number is to ask my contact at the employer, and even then it's always only ever been a broad estimate. So put in a number that you think is realistic, but please don't worry if you're a little out or even quite a lot out. It certainly isn't a deal breaker. Anyway, this question aside, I'm sure you will agree there's nothing on screen that you will find problematic. Okay, so rather than focus on these questions, let's look at the ones that need a little more thought. Out of the 30 or so questions you'll be asked, here are the 11 most important ones. I will use the wording Access to Work use, and I will even keep the order the same as the order you will see when your allocated advisor sends you the form. What I'm not going to do is read out each one, but what I am going to do is reflect generally on these questions and talk you through a couple of things you might struggle with. And don't worry, I'm going to leave them up on screen for long enough for you to absorb them. You might want to freeze the video and take a screenshot, or simply write down the questions. Some questions seem bigger than others, don't they? This one, for example. What support do you feel Access to Work can provide you with? I think I should redesign the list a little, actually. Let's do it. Sorry if you've already taken a screenshot. That's better. Now, don't be fazed by this list. I would imagine you would be able to answer quite a few of the questions with very few problems. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So let's take them off the list. The job description question is clearly important. So if you haven't got this, contact the employer to get it. You will need to spend some time importing this job description into the support plan, but that's easy enough to do, so I think we can take this off the list. As a side issue, I've always found it curious that whilst, quite rightly, Access to Work are placing quite considerable importance on the job description, they don't even mention a person specification. You're probably aware what makes up a classic person specification. Employers usually want their new employees to be highly effective communicators, great team players, to be able to work well under pressure. It's all those kind of things. Considering just these three qualities alone, my 25 years experience has taught me how challenging these can be to many of the people with learning disabilities and many of the autistic people that I've supported into paid employment. The nearest Access to Work get to a person specification question, I guess, is this one: the ability to be able to meet targets, which in itself is a very vague question, isn't it? I can meet many targets pretty well, whilst others I seem to miss regularly. But I know where they're coming from. In all seriousness, I'm a person who prefers to be given targets for something, for example, delivering a project by a specific date. If it's left to me, I'll find 1,000 different things I'd rather be doing. I'm not going to leave what remains of the list on screen for much longer, but I want to mention 2 specifically that I can help you with right now. This one first. Has your employer made any reasonable adjustments for you regarding your disability? Thinking of the people I've supported over the years, they have never put in more than a paragraph here. They usually say that the employer has made every effort to make the job interview accessible, which they will have done, of course, because they were happy for me to sit in as a key supporter. They also say, because they've already said so, that they will ensure any job coach or mentor funded by Access to Work will be welcomed into the organisation for as long as needed. You see, this in itself is reasonable adjustment. So, when filling in this part of the support plan, you shouldn't have any problems. So, let's take that question off the list. Now, this one. Have you put in any adjustments yourself, and if so, what are they? I'm assuming the reason Access to Work have included this question is because they use this form, or part of it, for people who already have jobs, as well as people whose jobs haven't started at the time they are making their application. Well, anyway, thinking about the people I've supported over the years, they've only ever answered this question with one word, no. And that's never been a problem, so let's take it off the list. So, we're left with just 3 questions, and I'm sure you will understand I am not going to attempt to answer these for you. They're too big and too individual to do so, but what I am going to do is give you the context so that you know how to answer them. Before I do that, I want to tweak the design and change the wording of question 2 that I think will help you a little. Here we go. As I'm a musician, I like to think of it as a simple 3-part harmony. This one's at the top of the harmony. How do you feel your disability will affect your job? This one's the root of the harmony. What challenges might lie ahead in what your employer expects of you in your job? And this one, the 3rd harmony, in fact the major 3rd harmony, is the one that joins the other 2 up. What support do you feel Access to Work can provide you with? So, whilst Access to Work give you about 30 questions to answer in your support plan, I've reduced these down to just 3. The most important 3, the 3-part harmony. I'll explain this more in the next video, video 10. See you there.